Does anyone remember Concord? You know, that funny little situation where Sony was gaslit into spending 400 million American dollars into buying this in an oversaturated hero shooter genre, something that looks so woke that Anita Sarkeesian is blushing. Complete disaster. Good times, honestly. Good times. The good old times, right? In any case, this led to the creation of the term Concord tax because instantaneously after this thing imploded in less than a day, Sony announced the price hikes of all of their hardware just to break even on this disaster, and that was 400 million American dollars. Currently, the situation is much worse, you see, because Sony is easily down anywhere from 1 billion to 2 billion, depending on how you want to actually look at the money and, all the statements in the past 2 years. If this led to a price hike of literally everything Sony related, how do you think 2 billion is gonna work out? And we're already seeing what's happening. Sony just announced yesterday that they are gonna be moving forward, get rid of physical copies. An absolutely insane idea that virtually everyone, except that a friend of the channel, Asmongold, he's actually very happy, but you will own nothing and be happy. But later about that, later. Sony announced that you're not gonna own anything and be happy. And needless to say, people were mad. And now, not even 24 hours after this announcement, we have a leak from Insomniac that actually gives us perspective into the digital sales versus physical sales. Because for the longest time, I and pretty much everyone else in the world thought that, yeah, digital sales make up the majority. People don't really care too much about physical media, and it's on its way out. Turns out that was a lie. Turns out all the statistics about this were 100% lies. And you know what's the best part? I'm gonna contextualize this in a little bit of a different sense in a bit, which is gonna make Sony's decision making even more completely insane. They are truly on a generational rampage of self-destruction. Because the news that we got, allegedly from Insomniac, previously everyone knew the situation that like 80 to 90% of all games sold are digital. And we obviously assumed that physical is gonna be out in some point, and it looked like that. And now we have the actual sales data. Turns out all of these companies, for literally years now, have been omitting information from the physical sales data to make it look like it's the minority. Okay? And this is absolutely devastating. Like, why would they do this? There is a context far above anything that anyone's talking, and again, about that a little bit later, but first, just so you understand what's happening. For a very long time, I have been saying, do not trust any statistics that anyone tells you. You need to see the source. And this is kind of the source that we more or less have currently. From this, I know it looks scary, but don't worry. You need to just look at digital percent. That is the digital percent of copies sold. You don't even have to actually think about how many copies of something have been sold. You just need to look at the digital percent here. Okay? Everything else is irrelevant. And when you look at the digital percent, which is digital copies sold of a thing, you see when there is an actual choice between buying a physical thing, a physical disc, or at least a box, I guess, in this case, then the super majority of people are gonna always choose the box. People don't want digital if there is a choice in buying physical. And this unanimously proves it. Look at this. All of these games, Ratchet and Clank, the show MLB The Show 2, Ghost Dirkut. What the fuck is that? Whatever. Uncharted, Death Stranding, God of War, Days Gone, Spider-Man, The Last of Us, Ghosts of Tsushima, Demon's Souls. All of these games Except Ghost of Tsushima, that has like a 50% digital cut. And whatever this is has a 61% digital sales, but everything else is hard below 40%. This is crazy statistics, boys. This pretty much changes the way that we should honestly be looking and seeing gaming, to be honest. This is wild thing. And don't worry, I'm gonna explain it a little bit more. This is just so you kind of understand what's happening. When there is so how did they get the statistic of 80 to 90% of all sales are digital? Well, the trick is when they said all sales, they actually literally meant all sales. Yes. Yes. The fact that I don't know Spider-Man Miles Morales sold 66% on flat disc gets counteracted by the fact that fucking Fortnite has sold literally tens of million copies, but you can't buy Fortnite on a physical disc. This is what these people have been doing for years, maybe even decades, honestly, at this point. They have just lumped up physical sales with indie titles, Fortnite, Genshin Impact, everything that doesn't have a physical disc. And then they were like, oh, look at that. No one wants to buy physical things anymore. You will own nothing and be happy. This is how we got here. And honestly, when I heard this, before actually looking at the proof, I started to think, if this makes sense, and fuck, did it make sense instantly. I'm honestly a lot ashamed in myself for not catching this. But granted, I never cared too much. This is not exactly my thing, okay? I'm just for ownership, not necessarily physical ownership. So this is something that I am personally not that invested, but man, I'm pissed at myself. I should have caught this. I should have known, because for a long time we have been seeing stuff like this. And this completely breaks the narrative that no one wants to buy physical copies. Look at this. Dune Awakening. They're gonna be releasing now on September 22, the 22nd of September. They're gonna be releasing a disc format of the game so they can just milk people and make people buy it as a memorabilia. Everyone already owns this digitally. They just know that they can make a lot of money selling this in disc format. If they were not making money, if this statistic right here of the 85% was truly true, no one would ever do this. And we're having these disc releases quite often if you think about it, which is crazy, because this proves the narrative that physical is not that people don't want physical. This is crazy. I'm so ashamed that I did not see this before, boys, honestly. I bet a lot of people are now thinking, wow, we should have really noticed this a lot sooner, but yeah, wow. It is really sad, honestly. It is absolutely sad. And they have lied for us for years about this. It is insanity. And you know what's the best part about this? How absolutely self-destructive and stupid this is. Because you are a company with a lot of data. You know your sales. You already know your previous historic sales numbers for physical media. Physical media is a thing that people buy because they want a physical thing, which means their want for that physical thing is so high that some people sometimes skip buying games that don't have a physical release. It is that strong. I know it, you know it, companies know this. And yet, they refuse to release games in physical, even though nowadays they can easily predict roughly how many copies of a physical disc they need. They can predict that. So, these companies, I assume they're just leaving a little bit money on the table, that the hustle is not worth the effort. But now with these statistics, it means these stupid companies, your Microsofts, your Xbox games, PlayStations, Sonys, Nintendos, all of these idiots have been leaving so much money on the table because they just want to release things non-physically for some reason. These people could be making extra money. They could actually be making some of their failures less faily. Some of them would be probably even profitable with a disc release, and yet they refuse, which is fucking crazy. Okay? And now the truly crazy part of this video, because I am gonna defend the companies, okay? Because there's a very important thing in these statistics that I have not talked about, because it doesn't necessarily need to be talked about, but there's one thing, okay? And that is the fact that you can actually steelman the position of these companies by saying, oh yeah, they have a right to go switch digitally because, you know, reasons, obviously. Oh, actually, you know what? No, we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna see what Asmongold has to say. Spoiler, he's out of touch once again. It happens a lot. Anyway, great guy, love him, obviously. And the thing is, if you would notice that all of these games are sold pretty much on console. All of these games are pretty much actually just kind of console exclusives, things that you're supposed to be playing on consoles more than on PCs, technically. That is kind of the justification that you could use for these AAA companies to getting rid of physical copies, because they were selling stuff on Steam and other places, so the physical copy thing did not make sense. But now these companies are no longer gonna sell things on Steam. We're currently talking about Xbox and PlayStation going exclusive again and ditching Steam. This is crazy. Absolutely crazy. Okay? They can sell so many copies in disc format, and they choose not to. They want to get rid of this, even though they know a lot of these people are not gonna buy the product now because they want the disc. Because that's what that's a lot of the thing about the console thing. You know, you have a console, that means you have a dedicated room where you're playing. You want it to be nice. You want discs. You want that. You know, you have limited space for your fucking room, but without swords that can't even clean your room. So, you know, you want to plump in a disc and play it without downloading 500 gigabytes of garbage. That's what you want to do. And they're literally saying no to this. This is so insane. Why? Why would they ever willingly choose to do this? This is the craziest statistic ever. They're not even trying, by the way, increasing the disc price by actually adding value to the things, which they could at least attempt to do. I'm not saying that they're gonna succeed. Probably not, honestly. But they're not even attempting. They see all of this money literally on the ground, and they're like, no. What do you mean, no? They're literally burning money. They're not picking it up. It's right there in front of them. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. They're just not doing this. And now they're gonna get rid of it completely? Either this is like a massive plan to go super microtransactions in the future, which may actually happen because, again, you know, the Concord tax never ends. Sony discusses potential future PlayStation Plus price hikes. Now, the good plus is no one owns a PlayStation fucking Plus account, because what the hell even is that supposed to be? But it's bad. Okay, it's bad. And remember, there's always going to be someone that has the dumbest opinion. Asmongold, friend of the channel, great guy. You know, this was so poorly received that he now needs to have his editors write up some random gobbledygook defending and saying that he was right once again. Let's hear his opinion, okay? Asmongold, friend of the channel, great guy.
On the internet that care a lot about physical media, and they care so much about it that they never buy it. And any of these people that are talking about how much they love video games and buying video games, I want you to show me the last 10 video games you bought, and I want you to show me the box that you bought them in.
Well, shit. You know, I've been thinking about this. This is such a diabolically stupid opinion. Absolutely deranged. If I had an option to click buy physical on Steam, I would click that for every single thing that I buy. I would do that. I can't show you any real life purchases because none of the things that even have a disc or physical option for the past I don't know how many years that I have bought games. Anyway, Asmongold, friend of the channel, great guy. Really stupid sometimes, but it is what it is. A long post, sorry, the fixation around physical media is a red herring. This is not how you use the term red herring, okay? But whatever, don't worry about it. People who obtained physical copies of Crimson Desert early weren't able to play it because the PS5 locked them out of playing it. Not the point that anyone's making. We talked about Asmongold's opinion on this previously, and he's approaching this from the side that no one's even arguing. No, there's not a single person in life who thought that you're going to be able to play Crimson Desert earlier if you bought if you bought the physical version of it. No one claimed that. No one said that. I don't know why he's gravitating towards this point, but this is I don't know. It's almost like he's completely misunderstanding the subject. Almost like Pirate Software would stop killing games or something. I don't know. It's really odd and strange. But you kind of get the point. If you want to read his opinions here, I'm going to mark it here so you can see it. Pause right now, read it. And now the second pause is here, so, you can read it now. Needless to say, the responses are not really kind, okay? The responses are not really kind. And the responses towards Sony's actions with the no more physical is even worse. This makes so little sense. What Sony's currently doing with the no physical, especially considering now we know that the statistics were lies. I can only imagine that the Sony future is going to be drastically worse than any one of us can imagine with what they're going to do. We already know that consoles are kind of fucked. They're expensive, they're not worth it, and now they're kind of destroying the last thing that was associated with them as a positive, the physical media component. I mean, is this just a death rattle of sorts, and that's it? Death throws, I guess. Death rattle is gaming. Death throws are real life. Well, whatever. It's the situation that we are in, and it's a strange one. What's your opinion? I mean, this does not make sense from almost any angle, right? It just doesn't. Even if you try to steelman them, it's not a good look anyway. Anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Do it right now. It takes less than a second. And have a nice day. Bye-bye. And if you want more people to know about this, you definitely like the video right now. Thank you. Bye.